Chapter 1: The Urban Legend in the Heart of New York City. Beneath the bustling streets and the constant hum of life lay a secret that few knew about. The subway system, an intricate web of tunnels and tracks, had its share of urban legends, but none were as chilling as that of the third tunnel. According to whispers among the city's underground workers, the third tunnel was a forgotten passageway, sealed off from the public for decades due to a series of mysterious disappearances. It was said that anyone who ventured into the third tunnel would never return. The stories spoke of strange sounds echoing through the darkness, shadows that moved on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread that enveloped anyone who dared to explore its depths. Most dismissed these tales as mere superstition, but for a group of adventurous friends, Jake, Mia, Alex, and Clara, the allure of the unknown was irresistible. Chapter 2: The plan. One Friday evening, after a long week of classes at New, Jake proposed an idea that sent shivers down everyone's spine. "Let's explore the third tunnel," he said, his eyes glinting with excitement. Mia hesitated. "Are you sure about this? I've heard some really creepy stories about that place." "Come on, it'll be fun," Jake insisted. "We'll take flashlights, and if anything happens, we can just turn back," Alex chimed in. Which life without a little adventure? Clara, always the cautious one, bit her lip. "I don't know, what if we get caught? Or worse?" Jake shrugged off her concerns. "We'll be fine. It's just a tunnel. Besides, it's probably just an old urban legend." After some back and forth, Clara reluctantly agreed. They gathered their gear, flashlights, snacks, and a couple of cameras and set out for the subway station that led to the abandoned entrance of the third tunnel. Chapter 3: Into the darkness. The night was unusually quiet as they made their way to the station. The flickering lights above cast eerie shadows along the walls, and the sound of their footsteps echoed ominously in the empty corridor. When they reached the entrance to the third tunnel, a heavy metal door barred their way. It was rusted and covered in grime, but a small crack revealed a glimpse of darkness beyond. "Here goes nothing," Jake said as he pushed against the door. To their surprise, it creaked open with little effort. They stepped inside, flashlights illuminating the damp walls covered in peeling paint and graffiti. The air was thick with mildew and something else, something metallic and stale. "Let's stick together," Mia whispered, her voice barely above a breath. They moved deeper into the tunnel, the sound of their footsteps swallowed by the oppressive silence. Chapter 4: Whispers in the dark. As they ventured further in, they began to hear strange sounds, soft whispers that seemed to echo off the walls. At first, they thought it was just their imagination playing tricks on them. "Did you hear that?" Clara asked, her voice trembling. "It's probably just water dripping or something," Jake replied dismissively, but even he felt a chill run down his spine. They pressed on until they reached a wider section of the tunnel where old subway tracks lay rusted and forgotten. The atmosphere grew heavier. Here it felt as if they were being watched. Suddenly, Alex's flashlight flickered and died. "Great," he muttered as he fumbled for fresh batteries. "Of all times, just stay close to us," Mia said nervously, as they waited for Alex to fix his flashlight. Clara noticed something out of the corner of her eye, a shadow darting past them, further down the tunnel. She gasped and pointed. "Did you see that?" Jake squinted into the darkness, but saw nothing. "It's probably just a rat or something," he said, trying to sound brave. But Clara wasn't convinced. "I don't like this. Let's turn back." Chapter 5: The First Sign. Reluctantly, they decided to head back toward the entrance. As they retraced their steps, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like an unseen wind. Panic began to set in as they quickened their pace. Suddenly, Alex screamed. What was that? He had seen something move behind them, a dark figure standing at the edge of his flashlight's beam, before disappearing into the shadows. "Let's go. Now," Mia shouted her heart racing. They ran back toward where they had entered, but as they turned a corner, they found themselves in an unfamiliar part of the tunnel, a section that wasn't on any map. "Where are we?" Clara panted, her eyes wide with fear. "I don't know," Jake admitted, looking around frantically. "This isn't right." They could hear the whispers again, now more distinct words they couldn't quite make out but felt chillingly familiar. The shadows seemed to close in around them. Chapter 6. The haunting realization. As they stumbled through the darkness, they discovered remnants of old subway posters plastered on the walls, faded advertisements for long-forgotten shows and products. But one poster caught Clara's eye. It depicted a missing person from over 20 years ago. A young woman with hauntingly familiar features. "Guys, look at this," she said shakily. Jake leaned closer to examine it. That's weird." "What's weird?" Mia asked. "This girl, she looks like you," Jake said slowly. Clara felt her stomach drop as she stared at the poster. The resemblance was uncanny. Same hair color, same eyes. "No way, this can't be real." Suddenly, Alex's flashlight flickered back on just in time for them to see something move behind Clara. Dark figure lurking just beyond their reach. "Run!" Jake yelled as he grabbed Clara's arm and pulled her along with them. Chapter 7. The chase. They sprinted through the twisting corridors of the tunnel, hearts pounding in their chests as they heard footsteps echoing behind them, heavy and relentless. The whispers morphed into frantic cries that echoed off the walls, filling their minds with dread. "Don't look back," Mia shouted as they navigated through a narrow passageway that felt like it was closing in on them. But Clara couldn't help herself. She glanced over her shoulder just in time to see a shadowy figure with hollow eyes staring right at her, a face twisted in anguish and rage. "Go! Go!" Clara screamed as she pushed herself to run faster. They burst into another open area of the tunnel, a large chamber filled with rusted machinery and old subway cars abandoned long ago. It felt like stepping into a graveyard of forgotten history. Chapter 8. The underground graveyard. The chamber was dimly lit by emergency lights that flickered sporadically overhead. Dust danced in the air as they caught their breath amidst the eerie silence that enveloped them once more. "We need to find a way out," Mia gasped, looking around frantically for an exit. Jake scanned the area and spotted a staircase leading up to another level. "There. Let's go." As they climbed the stairs two at a time, Clara couldn't shake off the feeling that something was following them, something sinister lurking just out of sight. When they reached the top of the staircase, they found themselves in another tunnel, but this one felt different. It was colder, darker, and more suffocating than before. Chapter 9. The Forgotten Ones. As they moved deeper into this new tunnel, they stumbled upon remnants of what appeared to be makeshift living quarters, old blankets strewn across crates, and discarded food wrappers littering the ground. "What is this place?" Alex wondered aloud as he picked up an old newspaper dated years ago. The headline read, "Mysterious Disappearances Continue in Nick's Subway System." Clara shivered as she read it over his shoulder. This is where they ended up, those who went missing. Suddenly, they heard a low growl echoing through the tunnel, a sound that sent chills racing down their spines. "What was that?" Mia whispered fearfully. Before anyone could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows, a gaunt man with hollow eyes and wild hair, who looked like he hadn't seen sunlight in years. "Who are you?" he rasped, his voice hoarse and trembling. "We're just lost," Jake replied cautiously. "We didn't mean to intrude." The man stepped closer, his gaze fixed intently on Clara. "You shouldn't be here. None of you should be here." Chapter 10. The Truth Unveiled. "What do you mean?" Clara asked nervously as she took a step back. "They're coming for you," he warned ominously. "The ones who were taken there hungry." "What do you mean?" Mia pressed him for answers. "Who are they?" "The spirits, those who were lost in this place," he whispered urgently. "They won't let you leave." Panic surged through them as they realized how deep into danger they had wandered. "We need to get out," Alex exclaimed. The man suddenly grabbed Clara's arm tightly. "You must listen. You have to find your way back before it's too late." Before anyone could react further, the growling sound returned closer, now as if something was stalking them through the darkness. Chapter 11. The final escape. "We can't stay here," Jake shouted as he pulled Clara away from the man's grasp. They turned to run back down the tunnel, when suddenly all lights flickered out, completely plunging them into utter darkness. "Stay together," Mia yelled as she fumbled for her flashlight, but found it dead too. The growling intensified around them. It felt like being surrounded by wolves, ready to pounce at any moment. They could hear heavy breathing coming from all directions, a chorus of despair echoing through the tunnel. "Where do we go?" Clara cried out in terror as she felt hands brush against her skin, cold and clammy like death itself. "Follow me," Jake shouted as he turned sharply down another passageway he hoped would lead them back toward safety. As they ran blindly through the pitch-black tunnel, Clara felt something brush against her leg, a cold hand reaching out from beneath the ground. "No, get away," she screamed as she kicked backward instinctively, but felt no resistance. Whatever that was had vanished into thin air. Chapter 12. The climax. Desperation fueled their flight. Every second felt like an eternity. As they raced against whatever horrors lurked behind them, they could feel something closing in, an overwhelming presence filled with anger and sorrow that threatened to consume them whole. Finally, after what felt like hours of running through darkness filled with whispers and shadows clawing at their heels, they spotted a faint light ahead, a glimmer of hope piercing through despair. "There, the exit," Alex shouted triumphantly as he sprinted ahead toward it. But just as they reached what appeared to be freedom, the light flickered violently before fading away completely once more, the tunnel collapsing into darkness around them again. Chapter 13. A new nightmare. In an instant, everything changed. They found themselves back in that same chamber where they had encountered the gaunt man earlier, only now it was empty, silent, except for their ragged breaths echoing off damp walls surrounding them once again. "What just happened?" Clara gasped as she looked around, frantically searching for any sign of escape. But all she found was shadows creeping closer every second. And then came whispers, again louder, this time filling her mind with terror until it felt like drowning beneath waves crashing over her head. "Help us, help us." Chapter 14. A choice as despair settled over them, like a shroud suffocating hope itself. Their only choice left seemed clear: to either succumb to whatever fate awaited them here or fight against it until their last breath. But deep down inside, each one knew there was no easy way out, not anymore, and so began another chapter within this twisted tale, a story forever entwined with darkness, lurking beneath New York City streets, waiting patiently for its next victims. Chapter 15. As the whispers grew louder, Clara felt a surge of determination rise within her. "We can't give up," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "We have to find a way out together. We owe it to those who can't escape." Jake nodded, his fear replaced by a flicker of hope. "She's right. We need to confront whatever is haunting this place. If there are spirits trapped here, maybe we can help them find peace." Mia and Alex exchanged glances, their expressions filled with uncertainty, but also a shared resolve. "Okay," Mia said slowly, "but how do we do that? We don't even know what we're dealing with." Clara took a deep breath, recalling the gaunt man's words. He mentioned something about being hungry. Maybe these spirits are tied to their past, something they need to let go of. Chapter 16. The ritual. Determined to confront the darkness, they gathered in a circle on the cold, damp ground of the chamber. Clara closed her eyes, focusing on the energy around them. "We need to call out to them," she said. "We need to show them that they're not alone." "Okay," Jake agreed, taking a deep breath. "On 3, we'll say, 'We hear you. You are not forgotten.'" They counted down together and shouted the phrase into the emptiness surrounding them. For a moment, silence enveloped them, and then the whispers returned, this time softer, more sorrowful. "Help us remember us." Clara felt a chill run down her spine as she opened her eyes. "They want to be remembered," she whispered. "They want their stories told." Chapter 17. The connection. Suddenly, the air around them shifted. Shadows flickered like candlelight as figures began to emerge from the darkness, ghostly apparitions of those who had disappeared long ago. Their faces were etched with sorrow and longing. "Who are you?" one spirit asked, her voice echoing with despair. "We're here to help you," Clara replied, her heart racing. "We want to remember you. We want your stories to be told." The spirits looked at each other, uncertainty in their hollow eyes. "Can you really do that?" another spirit asked, hope mingling with doubt. "Yes," Mia exclaimed. "Well, make sure everyone knows what happened to you. You won't be forgotten." Chapter 18. The release. As Clara spoke, she felt a wave of warmth wash over her, a connection forming between them and the spirits. The shadows began to brighten, revealing more faces, some familiar, some not, but all filled with longing for release. "Tell us your names," Clara urged, feeling the weight of their stories pressing against her heart. One by one, the spirits began to speak, sharing fragments of their lives, their dreams, their fears, and the circumstances that led them to this forsaken place. With each story shared, the oppressive darkness lifted slightly, replaced by a growing light. "I was a dancer," one spirit murmured, her voice filled with grace and sadness. "I just wanted to be seen. I was searching for my brother," another added, tears glistening in his ethereal eyes. With each revelation, the bond between the living and the dead strengthened until the chamber felt alive with energy. Chapter 19. The final goodbye. As the last spirit shared their story, Clara felt an overwhelming sense of peace settle over them all. "You are not alone anymore," she said softly. "You will be remembered." In that moment, a brilliant light enveloped the spirits, illuminating the chamber and casting away the shadows that had haunted it for so long. The whispers transformed into a harmonious chorus of farewell filled with gratitude and love. "Thank you," they echoed as they began to fade into the light. Clara and her friends stood in awe as the spirits ascended, finally free from their earthly ties. The air felt lighter, and for the first time since entering the tunnel, they could breathe easily. Chapter 20. The return. With the spirits gone, the tunnel transformed before their eyes. What once felt like a prison now appeared as a passage of hope. A faint glow guided them toward an exit they had noticed before. "Let's go," Jake urged as they hurried toward it. They emerged from the tunnel into the cool night air of New York City, gasping for breath as they stepped onto solid ground. The stars twinkled above them like diamonds scattered across velvet. "I can't believe we made it," Mia said, tears of relief streaming down her face. Clara smiled through her own tears. "We did it together." Epilogue. A new beginning. In the weeks that followed, Clara and her friends dedicated themselves to honoring the stories of those lost in the third tunnel. They organized community events, shared their experiences online, and worked tirelessly to ensure that no one would forget the lives that had been stolen by darkness. As they stood at the entrance of the tunnel one last time, now a place of remembrance rather than fear, they felt a sense of closure wash over them. "Goodbye," Clara whispered softly into the night sky, knowing that those who had once been trapped would forever live on in their hearts and stories. And as they turned away from the tunnel for the last time, they carried with them not just memories of terror, but also a newfound understanding of life's fragility and the importance of remembering those who came before.